Damn. The conversation between Aster and the steward was abruptly cut off by Damien. He froze, his eyes widening in terror at what he heard Aster say. The air seemed to freeze. Alfredo was so astonished he couldn't believe his ears. What? Did I mishear that? Damien, so innocent he didn't even grasp the problem, looked at Aster with wide eyes and awkwardly asked, Damn. Buddy, what does that mean? The whole scene nearly made Alfredo faint, but he forced himself to stay calm. Aster merely offered a faint smile, gently covering Damien's mouth with his hand to prevent the boy from saying anything more foolish. Thank you very much. To be considered the head steward's heir. But I think I prefer things as they are. He bowed slightly and spoke in a polite yet resolute tone. Once again, I truly appreciate it. Alfredo paused. His expression shifted from surprise to contemplation. Then he let out a soft breath, as if he finally understood. Why? Ah, I see. Born a drifter in the gray nothing, he learned magic through his own innate talent. A flash lit Alfredo's eyes. He realized that what made Aster refuse wasn't mere arrogance. It was the pride of someone who had walked through hell on his own 2 feet. Meanwhile, Damien responded guilelessly. I never said, damn. You're the one who said it. Aster merely sighed, his eyes seeming to say, honestly, I give up on you. Alfredo looked at both of them, and a deep thought rose in his mind. That may be why he's so arrogant. I understand now. I used to be like that too. A young man who didn't know his limits, who thought the world fit in the palm of his hand. He spoke slowly, his voice warm and experienced. Boy, this world is very vast. Aster narrowed his eyes and replied calmly, his tone cold but carrying a hint of concession. It's not small, indeed. It was an acknowledgement, but not acceptance. Alfredo could clearly see the pride in those eyes. He continued, trying to warn the young man. Right now, you probably feel you can do anything, that you can conquer the whole world. Aster folded his arms and replied indifferently. Not exactly. Alfredo's voice began to rise, tinged with sternness. Endure. You must learn to endure. Then he suddenly asked, his gaze sharp, have you ever heard of the goblin in the ravine? Aster slightly raised an eyebrow. Alfredo went on, his tone philosophical. Someone who believes himself the strongest, but only because he lives in a place far too small. You are exactly in that place, Aster. Aster gave a thin laugh, replying with mild sarcasm. Raised in a ravine and unaware of danger? Although, I think I'm more like a wyvern. The entire room fell silent. The remark was like a challenge. Alfredo ground his teeth, veins bulging in his neck, and slammed his foot down onto the tiled floor. The boy, he knows nothing. A surge of green energy erupted around his body, making the air tremble. So, this butler will personally show you. His voice rolled like thunder, how vast and terrifying this world truly is. Soon after, the scene shifted. Alfredo, looking imposing in a taut suit, led Aster into a magnificent hall, golden light reflecting from every surface. In that room, a long line of young men stood solemnly, all bowing in unison. Welcome, head butler. Alfredo smiled smugly, hands clasped behind his back, his voice ringing with pride. Kid, what do you think? They're all about your age, yet officially recognized talents of the Blander family. I'm certain you can feel it. Aster fell silent, his cold blue eyes sweeping over them. He snorted softly. The Blander clan, they're no joke. A narrator's voice echoed as the scene took on a blue mana hue. It's hard to believe they're still adolescents, yet trained to this level. Their auras, though subtle, permeate the space. The whole room sank into a tense, oppressive silence. Aster curled one corner of his mouth into a half-smile, sharp as a cut. Look into their eyes, he said coldly. A bunch of goblins. After all, that remark made Steward Alfredo start slightly, while the heirs standing around briefly frowned in displeasure. Aster turned, his tone still indifferent but full of implication. Yes, I can sense something too. But in Alfredo's mind, things had already begun to stir. He gave a faint smile, his eyes measuring. If you replaced me, you'd shine like these kids. No, even more than them. However, Aster merely flicked his hand and turned away with an annoyed expression. I hate the light. Alfredo frowned. Boy, why would you? Before he could finish, someone cut him off with a decisive voice. Head steward. The room fell silent. A young man with long, flowing hair, Winster, stepped forward, his lips curling into a smug smile. Winster, an intern. Do you have something to say? He glanced at Aster, his tone thick with contempt. If the brat truly sensed something, he wouldn't have turned down your offer. Refusing means he still understands nothing. Aster remained silent, his gaze as sharp as a blade, watching each challenge drop. Winster continued, his tone growing more provocative. If permitted, I'd like to help him. Feel a bit of magic. Oh? Alfredo raised an eyebrow slightly, his expression betraying clear interest. Presumptuous, but not bad. He turned to Aster and asked, "Well, boy? How about a simple match with this young man?" Aster gave a faint smile, one tinged with contempt. "Yes, I know. I'm a thorn in their side." His gaze swept over the young faces, caught in the light. Their features split in two, one half flushed crimson, the other darkened, plainly reflecting hostility. "That's probably how they see me." Aster stepped forward, his voice firm. "May I choose my opponents?" Alfredo half closed his eyes and replied, Go ahead and try." Aster raised his hand, pointing at each of them. You, you, and, yes, you too." The whole room fell silent. Eyes widened as they looked at one another, stunned and unable to believe what they'd just heard. Winster scoffed with a short laugh. "What? You're going to fight all 5 of us at once?" Aster merely shrugged and answered calmly, "I'll fight all of you, at the same time." Aster kept that half smile, cold and confident. Alfredo pointed, his voice dropping. "Good. Then let's do it. 1 minute. If you last 1 minute, we'll give you a gift. If not," his eyes flashed, "you'll have to take responsibility." The tension in the air suddenly broke. Alfredo paused, his face flushed, anger mixed with excitement. Then he laughed out loud, his voice echoing through the hall. "Yes. That's the spirit an heir should have." Calculations raced through Aster's mind. Take responsibility. Meaning he wants me to assume his position. A trap wrapped in honor. Clever. Old man. But instead of fear, Aster spread a cold smile. Afraid? Then, die. Both Damien and the nanny were present. Lancey turned to the young master and said in a calm but decisive tone, "I'll be back soon. Don't get involved in this, okay?" Damien nodded. His expression confirmed it, and his voice rang out, "Damn it." The atmosphere in the hall grew stifling. The butler said, "Coach, what are you doing? Start the match." The red-haired coach with glasses sighed, embarrassed. "Yes, I understand." The arena flared with murmurs and whispers. The coach stepped into the center, his voice echoing everywhere. "So, let me explain the rules. The match will be alternated." But before he could finish, the butler smiled and cut him off coldly. "No. Make it a free-for-all brawl." The coach reluctantly agreed. He turned to those around him, his voice dropping. "Serious. All right. The format is a free-for-all brawl. The match continues until one side surrenders." And he glanced at Aster. "The instructor can stop it at any time, so don't go overboard." The two sides squared off. On one side stood Aster, his gaze cold as steel, arms hanging at his sides while mana surged violently around him. Opposite him were 5 arrogant heirs, standing within a blazing magic circle, smirking. Winster ground out the words, his voice sharp as a knife. "You damned vagrant. The young master and the head butler may pity you, but who do you think you are? I'll crush you and show you what your true worth is." A burst of mana light exploded, the air taut with tension. The coach raised his hand to signal the match. Then, "Begin." The shout had barely died when the fight ignited. A mana bullet flashed, but not from the opponent, from Aster. A brilliant blue beam tore straight through the opponent's chest, sending him flipping backward. "What?" Winster had no time to react. His body froze, eyes wide with terror. He, the most arrogant of them, had just witnessed the power of Aster that he had so contemptuously dismissed. The stands fell silent. One by one, people dropped to their knees, screaming in pain. The entire arena seemed to shudder. Only Winster remained standing, pale and stunned. Aster walked forward slowly. The steady click of his leather shoes echoed, amplifying his opponent's fear. He stopped in front of Winster and looked down at him with a half-smile of scorn. First, his voice low and cold, "Don't underestimate others. It seems. I should teach you a little lesson myself," he said, manipulating the mana bullets with his hand. Winster trembled, his eyes filled with horror as he watched the mana bullets spiraling and hovering around Aster's hand. That spell is. Mana bullets? Aster tilted his head slightly and smiled coldly. "It's just basic mana control. Besides, it consumes a huge amount of mana, so it's useless in prolonged combat." His words left everyone stunned. The very thing that had felled them was dismissed by Aster as nothing more than a trifle. He raised his hand, a blue-green light gathering at his fist. Second, the air exploded. Thick black manas spiraled around him, spilling out like violent waves. Aster looked down at the people kneeling before him, his voice low but echoing through the space. "Don't judge others so easily." The entire air team was forced to the floor, unable even to lift their heads. Brilliant blue streaks shot through, colliding and scorching the air. Aster moved like a storm. A spin, a strike, pure mana howled. Third, he tilted his head, a dangerous smile forming. This world is vast and merciless. Winster sprang up, screaming in desperation, launching a counterattack. But Aster had vanished from sight. In the blink of an eye, he was overhead, his whole body cloaked in blue light. He lunged down like a thunderbolt. The punch struck, a deafening boom. The arena floor split open. The surrounding mana erupted, scattering like a rain of stars. When the smoke cleared, only Aster remained standing, eyes bright as steel, a radiant, proud smile on his face. He looked down at the unconscious Winster and said softly, "From now on, I'm going to inject all of these experiences into you. Learn well." "This is not magic," Winster screamed in panic. But Aster answered, resolute, his voice carrying like a roaring wind. "That is magic." It was physical magic, a technique Aster invented himself, using pure mana to augment the body, turning every punch into a living bullet.